It's Ron Reader digs the universe. I'm Ron Reader, and this is Ron Reader Digs the Universe, and tonight, campus protests and the Gaza horror. Some 6 months ago, I did an episode titled The Pitfalls and Perils of Supporting Palestine. It's essentially a breakdown of the American cultural and rhetorical context in which any pro-Palestine movements in this country must situate themselves. It is, in these contexts, as easy to screw up supporting Palestine as it is to be wrongfully destroyed for supporting Palestine. I go into much more detail in the video, but a brief exchange between me and a good lefty friend from my college days well encapsulates the idea. She asked me, what pitfalls might there possibly be in opposing genocide? Anti-Semitism, I told her. Anti-Semitism. We are now hearing in the news reports of intense anti-Semitism on display with the numerous pro-Palestine demonstrations currently rocking college campuses from coast to coast. We don't really know the extent of this anti-Semitism because no one seems to be reporting on that. What we're hearing instead are anecdotes. A mob chasing a person wearing a Star of David, chanting, which may or may not be calling for the destruction of Israel, from the river to the sea, and so on. If you listen to the Republicans in Congress, they make it sound like it's Kristallnacht American style. Thus, there are now congressional hearings, forced university administration resignations, faculty disciplined, and universities partying down like it's 1969, complete with police riots, busting heads, student expulsions and suspensions, and calls to bring in the National Guard because these kids are rabid anti-Semites trying to get their Holocaust on? Something doesn't smell right about this. What we need to understand about the scenario playing out here is that it would be happening whether these protests have any anti-Semitic content or not. Republicans just generally hate left-wing protest, as we were reminded a few years ago during the Black Lives Matter demonstrations. They love to send in the goons to beat hippie heads. But it's not just a disdain for the left. The powerful pro-Israel lobby has a long history of conflating any support for Palestine at all with anti-Semitism, and that's what's clearly happening right now. So you don't actually need anti-Semitism to get this kind of big, huge reaction. This is not to say, however, that there isn't any anti-Semitism as a part of these protests. I think that it's very likely that there is. The question to me is about whether this is the nature of the movement or whether we're dealing with a few bad apples or agents provocateur or simply people screwing up the rhetoric. I observed in my Pitfalls episode that all it takes is a little confusion between Jews as an ethnicity and the government of Israel to cross over the line into anti-Semitism. If you listen to the protesters, they're saying that the anti-Semitism they're seeing is just like that last little bit, confused rhetoric made in good faith during the heat of the moment. I recently read 2 essays, each written by Jewish student pro-Palestinian demonstrators, one at Yale and one at Columbia, and they strongly reject these accusations of anti-Semitism. And without any real evidence to the contrary, I am inclined to take them at their word. That means that this hardcore crackdown on the pro-Palestine movement is totally fucked up. Because what's happening in the Gaza Strip is real. The IDF has slaughtered since October 35,000 Palestinians. Israel has unleashed what Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now called the horror. And we fund and enable it. I'm Ron Reeder, and this has been Ron Reeder Digs the Universe. Join me, Ron Reeder, again next week for another episode of Ron Reeder Digs the Universe.